And we are live. What's going on, everyone? This is your boy, Billy Rowe. Welcome to the first row. Today is Tuesday, so you know what that means. It's time for a first row Intersation. I'm going to be jumping in pretty fast, pretty hot today because there's a lot of information to cover, and I'm glad you guys came to be a part. First and foremost, I want to welcome my guest, Keenan Prince. Could you say what's up to the people, Keenan?
Hello, how's everybody doing?
All right. So tonight's topic is going to be about work ethic. Something that in many ways, in many places is lacking. So we're going to talk about this topic, hopefully in depth. I hope you guys got your notebooks. I hope you got your drink. I hope you got your snack so that you can keep up and you don't have to leave. I hope you went to the bathroom too. So don't be trying to say I got to go to the bathroom. I want to start off, though, before we jump into tonight's topic, I want to start off by telling you a little bit about what an intersation is. Because intersation is still relatively new, I always like to start off with explaining what an intersation is. So simply put, intersation is when interview meets conversation. And when you put the two together, you get intersation. Keenan, there's something giving me feedback from your microphone. I don't know do you have the video up?
I have the video up, yeah.
Take the video down. Just pop the chat out so that you can see it. Hey, what's going on, Boris? Keenan. Yep. There we go. That's what it is. It's the delay of our video. So going back again, intersation is when interview meets conversation. When you put the two together, you get intersation. So in my life, I'm very fortunate to have a very diverse circle of friends, family, coworkers, and acquaintances. And I have tons of conversations with them on a regular basis. And those conversations tend to go beyond the surface level into more deep and meaningful things. And when they do that, I find that either I grow or the person grows or we both grow from the interaction with each other. So what intersation is me literally opening up a lens to those conversations for you to participate, to be able to get some of the growth, get some of the experience as well. So without further ado, I want you to know that tonight is going to be something, I'm going to call it epic. We're going to go back to an older word, epic. Keenan Prince is a person that I decided to bring on Intersation simply because I've known him for many, many, many years. I think we go all the way back to Cal Fit, which would be like 2007 or something like that. It's a minute. But I've known him for many years, and one of the things that I've always admired about Keenan is his sense of work ethic, his willingness, his determination, whether we were on the basketball court, whether I was watching him pursue his current relationship interests, whatever it may be, I've seen that he had a strong work ethic and he was really dedicated to whatever craft he was putting his energy into. So I invited him out to the show because I really think that he has something of substance to add and bring to the conversation. So I want to remind you, though, that this is a very interactive show. What's going on, Brother Key? What's going on, Boris? And welcome, Teresa. I don't know if I need to call you Mrs. Houston, so I'm gonna call you Mrs. Houston until you tell me otherwise. But though you'll see tonight Keenan and I interacting on the video, going back and forth, though you'll see us, this is an open conversation. So feel free to jump in on the chat, ask questions, give comments, give nuggets, participate, because this is as much for you as it is for us. So I don't want you to feel like you're watching a conversation. I want you to feel like you're a part of a conversation. So with that, I want to give my guest Keenan Prince a chance and an opportunity to introduce himself to the people. Please, Keenan, introduce yourself.
How's it going on? I'm Keenan Prince. Like Billy said, we've known each other for years. Started meeting at the gym and just always having meaningful conversations. So one of the main reasons why I really was like, man, I'd love to be a part of your show. Love to see what you're doing, how you inspire and motivate people. A little bit about myself. I'm 28 years old. I'm currently an English teacher at Capital Christian High School. And I also have a training business. I train young high school prospects, middle school prospects, any young athletes that actually would like to pursue a basketball career, either collegiate or professional.
And he really does have basketball skills. He's way better than me. Not that I'm the best basketball player by any means, but he really does have some skills. And if you watch his social media and the development of his players, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say he's somebody who can speak to work ethic. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right in. The very first question, Keenan, I like to ask every single one of my guests, when it comes to the topic of work ethic, what does that topic mean to you?
Work ethic. What work ethic means to me is a burning passion to accomplish a specific goal, grinding consistently, and having the resolve or perseverance to overcome adversity to accomplish or enhance the life of yourself or the ones around you.
Mm. You speak like an English teacher, man. It's like, I got the true definition for that. No, I definitely agree with you, though, that it is a specific goal. And it's, I guess for me, where it would only vary a little bit is it's a specific goal, but that's to say that sometimes our goals and or our focuses change a little bit. So I agree with you that for me, when I think of work ethic, I think of all the things that either I have done or I've seen others do in order to accomplish the things that they say they want. A lot of times you'll see people, I mean, I've experienced this, and I'm not sure if you have, you can confirm if you have, where I'll be in a work environment and people will see the type of work that I do. And they automatically say, you know, oh, you're lucky that you do that type of work, or you're lucky that that's your position and you don't have to do what I'm doing, but not realizing that it has nothing really to do with luck. And it has more so to do with the work ethic that I've put forth up front. And so when you show that you have that work ethic, when you show you have that determination, when opportunities present themselves to you, that or when you see an opportunity, you have the wherewithal and the ability to go and grab that opportunity. So that's where I think it can change based on focuses. But you're right; it's to achieve that goal when you're putting that work forward. It's very critical in work ethic. So I hope you're ready, because we're about to jump in. I always tell everybody after this point, after that question, we start fast forwarding. So with my next question that I have for you, excuse me, in your opinion, why is it important to have a strong work ethic?
In my opinion, a strong work ethic is the difference between being successful and being unsuccessful.
Mm.
One that wants to be diligent in their efforts to accomplish a specific goal or better the lives of their family. Everyone has a goal. Everybody has a reason for doing what they're doing. And without work ethic, especially nowadays, I see it with my students all the time. Work ethic, I feel like, is decreasing in a good percentage of us. And unfortunately, it's slowing the progress or slowing people down from obtaining whatever goal it is that they want.
So, especially with your vantage point, why do you perceive that work ethic in today's generation is slowing?
I think decreasing. So many things come easy. I mean, when we were growing up, if we wanted fast food, we could go to fast food and McDonald's and get something to eat. Now, my students, they can order food. Fast food will be brought to them. Is that we had to go to the library and check out an encyclopedia and read, and students, they just have to Google it. So with that being said, I'm always advising my students to, hey, I know that your phone will fix the text message for you, but try your best to learn how to spell that word on your own. And that all ties into work ethic, because life in the real world, as you and I know, it's not easy. It's a constant grind, and work ethic builds that character, so that when you reach those times in adverse situations, you're able to persevere through them.
So I agree with you. Work ethic does build that character. It kind of establishes that, what do they call it? Your toughness of your skin, in order to help give you that grit. So when, adversity presents itself or challenges present themselves, you're able to kind of adapt and adjust and not simply just fail or not simply just give up. I do see a lot where a lot of, I guess I went through it as well as a child, where, something's too hard. I mean, it obviously increases as you get older, as we know. It might have been like tying your shoe was hard and you get frustrated and you throw the laces down. But then, I wish today the only frustration I had was that tying my shoes was hard. So Um, for yourself, how well for yourself and maybe as observation of others, how do you feel that a person's work ethic ties in? And when I say ties in, I mean either increases or decreases their own self-value.
Work ethic decreases or increases someone's self-value based on how they feel about themselves.
Okay.
If you love who you are, if you are motivated to do better in whatever it is, I believe that your work ethic will show. That work ethic will increase. That work ethic will be consistent. Typically, what I notice is when people are not too fond of themselves, low self-esteem, low self-value, they don't really see the need to work hard, the need to improve. I've had students before who showed no effort. And I would always ask them, I'm like, hey, what's going on? You know, why do you think you are not displaying the effort that I think you should? And a lot of times what was said is, you know, I don't even like myself. So why would I do well? Why would I put forth work effort? That's why I believe if you value who you are, you value yourself, others around you, and you know what you're doing it for, it makes work ethic come a little bit.
Okay. We have a question here in the chat. Key Bryant, he's an athlete as well, possibly a retired athlete. I'm messing with you, Key. But he's an athlete as well. And he asked the question, he said, how do you determine the difference between working hard and working smart when you're teaching your athletes and students work ethic? Secondary question is also, do you think work ethic can be taught?
That's a great question. A great question. And I'm actually responding to them as we speak, but I'll reiterate it right now as I'm speaking as well. So I think there's a fine line between efficiency and working working hard. And what I mean by that is just because something may save you some time, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're being more efficient. For example, and this is an extreme example, but steroids. You could use steroids, work out a couple times, now you're pumped. Okay, that you saved yourself some time, but you didn't gain the necessary skills that you needed. The thick skin that you get from working out at the gym consistently, grinding, waking up on those days when you don't want to go to the gym, but you still go. So I do think that work ethic is something that most people are born with, but I do think there's also an element in work ethic that you are taught. For me, I'm a proponent. I saw my grandmother who had 8 children. She tells me stories all the time. Hey, I had 8 children and I still went to nursing school. And she's 90 something years old now and she's still working hard. And it blows my mind. And I'm like, okay, some people just have it, but then others will learn it, they observe it. So for me in my life, I would say I was born with most of it, but I observed people in my circle that just grind.
No, he said that's a great example. And somebody, RJ Garcia says, "What's up?"
RJ,
but as far as what you're answering and what you're talking about, actually is a part of that second question, and you've already answered it. I believe as well that work ethic is something that you are born with. But I do feel that there are factors that play a part in whether that initial baseline or initial foundation of work ethic increases or decreases and begins to slip. In your life, it sounds like your grandmother is one of the people, but who have been the people who have instilled that work ethic and that driving you to continue to push yourself harder and push yourself into maybe uncomfortable situations for the time that were going to help you achieve success at a later date?
I would say probably the most influential person in my life in regards to work ethic. When I was very young, he sat me down and had a conversation with me. He asked me if I really wanted to play this game, basketball. It's not him. he was playing basketball. I used to watch him play. And then I decided that, Dad, I really want to be good at basketball. So he sat me down and he said, son, there's something that I can't teach you. I can't teach you heart. He's like, if you want to play this game, if you want to be the best you can be, you have to have heart.
Wait, Keenan, you're a little distant. I'm not hearing you completely. Can you move a little closer to the mic?
Can you hear me a little bit better now?
Woo! Yeah, there we go.
Okay, sorry. So what I was saying is that my father instilled, basically asked me, do I have the heart muscle to persevere in the days that are going to be tough. So my father is the person that I feel taught me that work ethic, at least brought it up to me and made me aware of it. And then there was something inside of me, probably genetics, inherited it from him and the great family members I had before that basically help instill that drive and harness that drive to get me to where I am today. I don't think I've been able to have that drive without my father, listening to him. My father has rheumatoid arthritis. He was diagnosed at 24 years old, but yet it didn't stop him from being positive and working hard. We started this training business together, and it's like, how many people in his shoes who have arthritis and haven't been able to play the game they love for so many years would just quit.
Right. And this is a question that I have for you from that, because I feel like a lot of times it is easier to quit than it is to persevere. And one of the comments here your mother placed says, your grandfather went back to college at 45 years old and got his BA from the University of California, Davis. It's easy to say, I'm 45. I'm gonna make what I'm gonna make. I'm gonna do what I do. I have what I have. What is it? What is it that you feel that is within yourself that has helped you to really connect with? We're going to use the term your father used, that heart muscle. I believe you said. What is it within you that has helped you connect with that heart muscle in those times where it is easier to just like quit and say, it is what it is. I'll take the loss or I'll take the L. What is it? What do you think that is?
I believe that it is a great deal of the competitive nature that I'm very competitive, and it doesn't really matter what I'm doing. I want to be the best. It's a burning passion inside me that is just there. Like you said, like born with it, but thankful enough to be able to witness people along the way that have the same burning, same work ethic or more work ethic, which then motivated me. I'm not working as hard as I need to work. I need to step it up, actually. Or that example my mother uses is perfect. 45 years old. It's crazy.
All right. You're fading away again. I don't know if it's the volume in which you're talking at, or if it's.
I'm going to try to scoot it closer.
There we go. You're just gonna have to show the world your head, man. If you're part of the big head club, you just got to be a part of the big head club.
You're part of that club, man.
Tell them we're smarter because we got more brain. No, you bring up a good point, and it's not even something for myself that I thought about when creating this content about being competitive. Really, sometimes our internal drive is not enough to. Oh, we're feedbacking again. Sometimes our internal drive is just not enough to push us forward into whatever area of resistance that we're facing. And so sometimes you do have to look at your peers. We're still feedbacking, Keenan.
How about now?
Test. Yeah, no, we're good now. Thank you. But sometimes you do have to look at your peers and try to, I don't really like this term, but I'm going to use it, mimic what you see in them to push yourself into the next level. And so that really is competitiveness. Like, I know, for instance, we both play basketball. Those times when you get on the court and the competition is not really fierce, and so you don't put your full effort into winning the game. But then there's times where it's like, man, they got some heavy hitters on their team, and even in those times where I'm just a mediocre basketball player, I find myself with better handles, better ball control, better shots, better penetration, better passes, because I see that the competition that I am playing against is not going to let me get away with, lifting my leg. When you're a kid, you used to lift your leg up to go under your leg. They're not going to let me get away with that. So I think you bring a good point that competitive nature really does encourage and inspire a stronger work ethic. So with that, I want to go kind of onto an area that you spoke of in the beginning of, you feel like you're born with work ethic, you kind of have it or you don't have it. Now, I do believe that if you don't have it, you can develop it. It's just going to be a little steeper of a hill for you to climb. But besides practice, what else do you think can help increase your work ethic?
Besides practice, I believe that another lesson that I was taught from the wise men in my family was surround myself with positive people. One of my good buddies, one of my closest buddies, he always tells me iron sharpens iron. And if you're not born with it, I do think you can, like you said, learn it. But it's going to require you to be around people that display that in their everyday life. People speaking life on you, and then you have to make a conscious decision. I choose to be dedicated. I choose to work as hard as possible to do whatever it is that I want to do.
So, question, because you said being around people who display it every day. For yourself, how, especially because you interact with students, how do you display work ethic every single day to your students?
That's a great question. How I display work ethic to my students is the days that I don't really want to be there, the days that are tough. I woke up and I'm just, did the alarm clock really go off? Are you sure it's not Saturday? I show up with a smile, and I always preach find a positive and a negative. And with that mindset, that optimistic mindset, I'm showing my students that, hey, even on days that are really difficult, I'm still here. Most of my students, they don't know what I go through. There's times where I have to deal with family issues, or I have to deal with, my children doing something. And I come to work and they would not be able to tell what's going on at home. So I display my professionalism and work ethic because I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. So that's how I do it.
Nice. I agree with you. And so there's a balance, I think, that has to take place, because there are days like, for instance, last year I got some kind of bug, and I had shivers, couldn't sleep. And I was like, if I go to work, I'm just going to contaminate people. So I'm not going to go to work. But today, actually, so today our company, our team in my company, we had a little team get together gathering out offsite, and I had tons of work to do. And I'm like, I can be engrossed in work and not want to pull away from it. So I guess my question to you is in those moments, how do you weigh out the balance of being engrossed in the work and displaying work ethic, but also being able to show some R&R that, everything in life, if it's just work, then at some point, everything in life is just to work. And that's really not a fully lived life as well. How do you display that and balance that out in your life?
So you're asking, I didn't hear everything. So you said, how do I display?
How do you display the balance between having a strong work ethic and showing up every day, and also having the wherewithal to know when it's time for you to take a break and really relax and rest to recharge?
Well, one thing that most people that know me, everyone that knows me, is I'm very transparent. So if I'm going through something, I may just be like, hey guys, I just want to let you know. I'm not going to go into detail, but I'm kind of my heart is heavy today, and I'm here for you guys because I care about you, and I want to walk the talk. I want to practice what I preach.
Mm.
You guys work ethic and consistency, perseverance. So I'm here, even though I probably have a legitimate excuse to not be, but I'm here. So I use my balance comes from transparency.
Okay, nice. I like that. We got a couple of things going on in the comments. It looks like Key has a nugget and a question, or a comment and a question. It says, "I'm an advocate for not letting emotions get the best of you and to push forward. But do you think that there is ever a time when you should listen to your emotions in conjunction with applying work ethic?"
And how's it going, Pops? My response to that, I'm currently reading a book by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. One of the things that I picked up from that book is that a lot of us make decisions based on emotions. It's not necessarily the best thing to do. I would say I would advise to not really make decisions based on emotions. Another thing my dad taught me is take a step back, reflect, analyze the situation, and then make a decision. Usually, if I say something offensive to you, it's probably real easy for you to just go ahead and say something real offensive to me right away. But if you were to step back, think about it, gather the information, process it, come back and go, you know what, I think that's really not his character. Probably just had a bad day. Maybe something happened. And then you really, address the situation, I feel like, saying, you know.
Okay, I like that. I agree with that. Where, emotionally, when you come from an emotional charged place, even with work ethic, I think it can be disruptive, because typically what happens when you're in an emotionally charged place, unless it's something like you're passionate about or it's like joy that you're experiencing, you start to make missteps within this work ethic. So you end up having to work even harder, and because you're working harder, typically that will yield the emotion of frustration and feelings of frustration, which are what I believe inevitably give us that, okay, I'm going to hit the eject button, I'm going to hit the quit button, I'm going to hit the cancel button, because of the frustration that's being built up or rustled up because of the fact that, well, I need to get it done today. I mean, how many times have you procrastinated on something, and now all of a sudden that it's due and you need to get it done? You can't seem to get your mind to move in the right direction. Whereas if you would not be in such an emotionally compromised position, you would probably be able to say, okay, let me gather my thoughts. Let me go ahead and get my opening paragraph and my conclusion, and then I'll fill in the rest through the middle. So I agree with that. But I also will say, I know this is going to sound like double tongue, but I will say that there are times where emotion will help you overcome certain things, whether that may be like experiencing a death, going through the grieving process. I think emoting that helps you work through that, and versus being stuck. I've seen a lot of people get stuck when they lose somebody close to them, where they are engulfed in the memory of the person who is no longer there. However, they're not making strides forward in their life. And if you really think about it, the person who's no longer there wouldn't want them to be stuck at the last place that they seen them at. So with that, I want to ask my next question, because I believe that there is natural ability, and then there is your worked ability. So you can start with a great natural ability and increase from there, or you can start with a poor ability and kind of increase to like a medium. But in your opinion, or not in your opinion, in your experience, have you ever had an experience where somebody's work ethic outperformed your natural ability, and then how did you reconcile that situation?
That actually takes me back to my freshman year of college.
Okay.
I played college basketball. I was fortunate enough to play basketball at the highly ranked junior college, Yuba College. I was playing my freshman year. We had about 71 guys on the team. Here I am coming from Marysville High School. I was top 10 in the nation, second in the state. DeMar DeRozan was the only person that scored more points than him. So I'm coming in, okay, I have the ability, I have the work ethic, I'm good. Into the team, and what I noticed is that these guys could go. And they were stronger, and I was kind of falling to the waistline, per se, and decided that, hey, I know I have a good work ethic, but it is time to amp it up. So what I would start doing is I started waking up at 5 in the morning to go outside in front of the house, and started just doing my own schedules. And what I noticed is that work ethic propelled me past. And I remember my coach had told the newspaper, there was an article, and Keenan's missed a shot in like 3 months. And it was all because, like you said, I thought my ability and my work ethic was enough. I started getting past. So then I had to amp it up, and I was able to get back to what I felt I deserved to.
I think you bring up a good point, because when you start at a deficit, you have to run faster to catch up, and you end up having to expend more energy. I mean, if you look at a track race, if I wait 5 seconds to start the race, the people who started the race 5 seconds ago are that much further ahead of me. And even if we ran at the same speed, they would always be ahead of me. Versus if I was able to start with them, I'd be able to run at the same pace with them and we'd be together. But if I'm from behind, I got to now run that much harder, that much faster, burn that much more energy to catch up in hopes to having enough time to overcome them. I did a video a while back, and I think it was called Quit Playing, but we were talking about, where we wait until that last possible second to where, okay, now the game's on the line. You're down by 2 and you just need to make a layup. But all that work that you could have been doing to prepare yourself, you weren't doing. And now all of a sudden you want your body to go the extra mile that it hasn't been conditioned to go. And I think it's in those moments that we're actually relying on luck instead of focusing on relying on our work ethic. Key said, okay, I like that response that you gave. Do you think emotions can enable you, maybe disable you from performing good work? Key, I'm not following this question. Do you think emotions can enable you from performing good work ethic to where it may be better to step away and come back when you are less emotional?
I truly believe that stepping. Can you guys hear me well enough?
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
I believe stepping away from whatever the situation is. We've been talking about athletics, but also in your professional life. Let's say you're somebody that you're at your job, your company, and you're striving to move up, or you have your own business and you're trying to beat the sales from the previous year. That work ethic and those emotions can build up, and eventually they can kind of cripple you because you kind of get caught up in that goal. Sometimes the best thing you can do in life is take a step back, breathe, calm down, realize, hey, there's a lot to be thankful for. There's a lot of accomplishments that we've already met. And if I don't hit this exact target, I aimed for the stars and I landed on the clouds. I think that in itself can help somebody. That I know for me, I'm a young man, but I get so stuck on, I need to be on this budget because I want to have this amount of money. And I look back and I'm like, I didn't do it. But if I had not had that goal, I wouldn't have been where I made it now.
Right. Yeah, no, that you're right. Setting those goals that are, dreams. I got big dreams for this particular YouTube channel. And I'm like, hey, even if I only achieve a quarter of it, I'd rather strive for something so much greater, because it's going to put my mindset and the work that I'm putting, the work ethic that I put into it, whether it's content development or getting the right technology, doing different tests and trying different softwares. All that stuff is a part of the greater goal that I have. And if I have this minuscule, easily obtained goal, then really the muscle memory that's necessary to be developed in order to achieve something greater, it'll just never be there. One of the one of the things that you mentioned was professionally, and I kind of want to jump into, those other areas where work ethic shows, because we have been talking a lot about sports. In your life, how has your work ethic shown up romantically? How has your work ethic shown up, shown up mentally, and maybe even spiritually for you?
So that great question. There's been times where I think at the beginning of my relationship, I noticed that my work ethic was great. You go on your weekly dates or your monthly dates, and you invest that romantic and intimate time with the person that you care about. As you kind of get used to somebody, I feel like you lose that. And what I had to do for myself was make a conscious decision to go, this is the person that I care about. This is the person that I love, that I'll do anything for, that I want to spend the rest of my life with. So I have to make a conscious decision to transfer that work ethic that I have in basketball and at work to my romantic life. Because I truly believe anything that we do, anything that we want to be really good at, starts with a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put that. Even like you said, there was times where you may not feel like you want to go to the gym. But part of that work ethic, part of that burning passion inside of you is, I'm going to do it. Even the days that I don't want to. Even the days when I think significant other's breath smells bad.
Don't tell the truth.
I'm gonna hug you. I'm gonna come home from a hard day and I really don't want to talk to anybody, but I'm gonna hug you. I'm gonna make that choice.
Making that embrace. And then mentally, how do you you hear with the news and with people, oh, I need a mental health day, or people having mental breaks and snapping. How do you keep yourself from obviously going over the top, but push yourself really close to the edge when it comes to work ethic on the mental basis? I mean, college is something that is not something you just get to go to, show up, and then you get a degree. You actually got to put some work in on it.
Yeah, once I hear my dad echoing in my ear. He's chiming in on the side in the chat. He used to preach to me balance. You and I just talked about that previously in the show. Balance is the only way that I was able to maintain my mental sanity, especially in what I do right now, the field of education, with kids being brought up a lot differently than we were brought up. And then so many different tasks, so many different requirements, also personal life. Like, I'm pulled in so many different ways. And the analogy that most of our professional development has is that we wear different hats, and we wear so many hats each day. So for me, it's just balance. Mental health days are necessary, and I just think those mental health days have to be productive. Like, we have to do something productive. And so my outlet is the gym or basketball, into, family time, something for that mental recharge.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's days like I've talked to I have a person in the chat, cousin Mo. I've talked to him about, there's days where I'll have a frustrating day at work, and I grew up in a neighborhood where I was a fighter. Like, because I spoke properly, because I wasn't the biggest kid, I had to prove myself for a short stint. Because once I proved myself, people realized, you know what, Billy is not the person that you want to jump on your back and attack you. But there are days where I'll come from work and maybe be like overwhelmed by, it's going to sound very small, but overwhelmed by an Excel problem that I can't figure out the solution to. And I'll just go to the gym and just throw some sets on the heavy bag. And it's like, all of a sudden it gives me the clarity of mind that I need to be able to go back to the issue and create an actual solution to solve the problem. So I agree. There are those mental breaks. However, I do think there's a fine line between, I need a mental break and then procrastination, where it's like every 5 minutes you can't need a mental break because you're not going to get done whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. And so how do you keep from slipping into that excuse slope, where it's not really a mental break, it's an excuse to not put the work ethic forward that you actually need in order to accomplish what you're attempting to do?
I would say that way I avoid the way I avoid falling into that category is that burning passion, like I said, that competitive nature. That I'm gonna put the analogy. I hear Steph Curry use it about training. Him and his coach would say every day, put something in the bank. So each day that I go to work, days where I am mentally drained, but yeah, like I said, it's not an excuse that everybody's going through something. Everybody has a story. Everybody has adversity. You just have to have that resolve, and you have to have, I like to say, that dog inside of you to overcome whatever it is. And to break, like I said, for me. I always tell my students, it's okay to be upset about something. It's not okay to dwell. You can't dwell. You can't stay there. It's always about the next step. Keep moving, keep going forward. So that's for me how I do it. I take my mental break, and then bam, I'm back to the ground running, and I'm gonna run as long as I can.
I like that. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to like have a setback, but don't dwell. Don't sit in that moment and sulk and pout and then wonder 2 years later that you haven't made progress since the moment you decided to sit down. One of the things that's also with work ethic is going to the gym, being a physical person. When you stop doing something, you don't just stop and stay where you stop at. 9 times out of 10, there's this decline of ability that takes place. One of the things that I've lost the ability to do, I used to play the piano for a church choir, and I used to play music by ear on the piano. Like I would hear a song like 4 or 5 times, figure out the basics of it, listen to it about 5 more times, and I'd be able to play the song without the music. Now, if I sit down at the piano, I'm trying to guess where middle C is at. So there is a point where deciding to dwell, I feel it starts to not only leave you where you're at, but depending on how long you choose to dwell, you start to slip back and lose some ability in that. Oh, Key just came back. You're late, Key. We moved past that, but you're good. No worries. As far as with my next question, you've talked about a couple of ways that your work ethic shows up in your relationship. It shows up at your profession and in your school. Because I know you're a father, and you've already shared for yourself personally, a lot of your drive and your work ethic has been instilled to you by the people who were around you. One of those voices being your father. How does your work ethic show up with your children as a father?
To me, that's probably the most. Those are the most important eyes for me right now. My children's eyes. Great quote that a lot of teachers see pop up frequently. I don't remember who it's by, but basically it's that children learn a percentage of the information by listening, but remember the most information by CSD. So while we're on the topic of working out, like my son is already doing push-ups because he sees me doing before bed or while I'm watching the Laker game or something like that. My daughter actually attended college with me. She attended the last semester of my bachelor's. She was at about 2 of the classrooms with me. One of the professors mentioned that we should try to get her some college credits. So just being that father that does not only preach, but also shows them with my actions. So my daughter sees me working out. My daughter sees me working, doing schoolwork. I love to take her to school with me so that she can see what I do. I believe that's has a huge impact on perception of father, and seeing, oh, my dad actually went to school to do this, and now it's into fruition now. So my students see my work ethic through my actions and going and me including them in whatever it is that I'm doing. They always come to my basketball games. So
it's interesting because I've always been a proponent of we are experiential learners, and somebody can tell you they love you, but there's nothing they can do to correct whether they show you if they love you or not. So it's like, if somebody is showing you that they love you, they may say one thing, but later on in life, when you look back and replay what you're seeing through what they're showing in action, you'll be like, yeah, they said some pretty stern things. I'm pretty sure all three of my sons would agree, and one's only 4. But I'm very strict and I'm very structured, and I try to remember that they're kids, but at the same time, I'm trying to balance that they're going to be men one day. And so part of me moving to Utah has been, showing my children, look, your father wants to make sure that he is financially responsible for putting food in your mouth, having clothes on your back, and being a resource to you, and hopefully not later on in life being a resource drain to you. So in showing them those things, like, yeah, I had to move to where the opportunity was for me to make the money that I need to make in order to take care of you and to take care of myself. So I agree with you, where those actions, even when children are very young, we used to do push-up competitions in the morning in my house, and I would see at the time he was like 2 or 2.5 or something like that. I would see him trying to do push-ups with me and his brothers, or his brothers and I, because he just sees us like, oh, they're going at it. And it's like, we just put the little number on the refrigerator. And that's just a way to teach my kids, hey, you're getting stronger, and you'll eventually see that you're doing more push-ups than you were when you first started. So kind of instilling through ways of fun and through ways of play, how to engage that work ethic and just the light, easy things that we may do on a day-to-day basis. I think that's important to show that visual. With that, we're actually at about 50 minutes right now in live chat. If you have any other questions or comments that you want to add, now is the time to do so, because we are almost at the end of the Intersation, and I want to make sure we get an opportunity to answer every question. I definitely appreciate you guys spending time and joining us tonight. But my couple of few questions that I have left. One of the areas that work ethic sometimes gets, I would think, caught up or gets deteriorated is in our egos. So is ego, in your opinion, a good incentive to encourage a strong work ethic, or do you feel it's more counterproductive?
You might say that I'm playing both sides, but I just think a strict balance. I think for me, growing up, and if I can use athletics again, one of my favorite competitors is Kobe Bryant. And most people would say they're egotistical, but that ego drove him, and ego is your self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. And I believe as long as you're doing that in a way to prove or reach a certain goal, then that ego is something that you need. That's part of what's on the inside, that burning desire to do well, to prove constantly. So I believe that a balance of ego. Now, there's other people, other figures in this world that we can think of that their ego is all they care about. The ego overshadows genuineness, the actual work ethic. You use your ego to your advantage. I think that there's a good amount of people that do use their ego to their advantage and helps their work ethic. But then if you're too full of yourself, it is detrimental to you. I think it just requires a very strict balance.
And I agree, because Kobe was very egotistical. However, he was an amazing athlete, and nobody could take that away from him. And I think at some point, when I think it was when I used to go to church, they would say, "Fake it till you make it." At some point, that ego may become like, well, I got to keep up this ego that I said I was. I'm the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali. I got to keep that up, and now I got to perform at that level consistently, because other than that, the moment I don't perform at that level, I'm not only showing that I'm not what I say I am. Now people feel like they can beat me, and I'm going to have a lot more competitors willing to get in the ring to take their shot at the title. So I agree with that. And I do think it's a balance. So I don't think you're playing both sides. I think really it is a balance of, for me, I had to find the balance of having the brand in my mind where I'm like, I'm Billy Rowe, and the balance of, okay, but Billy Rowe is a human. So where I would normally tell people my way or the highway, I had to say, well, sometimes my highway is the wrong highway, and I need to get on your campaign in order to be on the right path for myself. So there is a very I think it's not a fine line. I think it's a really established boundary between the two. And it's about just being honest with yourself on which side of the fence you're on. With that, I would like to follow up with a secondary question, because ego typically will keep us from asking for help. So how much is willingness, in your opinion, to ask for help? How much does that impact our work ethic?
I think a strong work ethic requires someone to be humble enough to ask for help if they need it. Biblically, it talks about when pride comes, then comes disgrace. Pride comes to fall. So if we're too prideful, if that ego, like I said, is overshadowing the rest of us, there's not an adequate balance, then we'll not reach your full potential. And I think sound work ethic has a person that has sound work ethic can ask for help. That's why I myself with people who I know are either smarter than me or more wealthy or financially literate, all of those things more than me. That way, when I'm obtaining or trying to obtain those goals, I can reach out and use them as resources. So I think work ethic, you should be able to ask for help.
Yeah, and again, you bring up something that I didn't think about when I was creating the content. This is what I mean when I say Intersations are an opportunity for me to grow as much as everybody else, and for you to grow as well. Work ethic, being a part of work ethic, is being able to ask for that help, because if you're really sincerely trying to push yourself to the best possible person that you can be, then you should be able to also identify that you won't be able to do that on your own by yourself. And so finding people who have efficiencies or who have a stronger intellect in specific areas, it's good to lean on those people. I'm actually going to do a Wednesday Word in a couple of weeks about, I forget the title of it because it's on my mirror right now, but it's about that, where, being able to go to people and ask for help, but also not slipping over, again, going into balance, not slipping over into that I want everybody to do things for me. Because going back to the beginning of this conversation, you were saying how, we used to have to go to the library and get in an encyclopedia and research. And so now when you take that skill set and transfer it over to doing a Google searches are easy. Like, look, I don't got to look up any number cards or any index cards. I don't have to worry about the book being checked out. I don't have to go ride my bike to another library that says they have the book. I don't have to do any of that, because now I'm able to take all this base knowledge and this base experience with research and studying and apply it to a platform that is more streamlined and more efficient for me to utilize. However, when you don't have that baseline, or you don't have what I'm going to call the language to be able to speak to Google in a sense of what you're looking for, then you might spend all day on Google looking for something, when really what you needed to do was ask somebody who knew about it. I deal with that with SQL coding all the time, where it's like, that's a new language to me, so I'm not really sure what to ask Google about what I'm looking for. I know what kind of solution I'm looking for, but I don't know the language to ask the intelligent question to Google. So I lean heavily on my peer, who is very astute at SQL queries and making sure things work in the proper structure, in the proper frame of that database. So I agree with you that work ethic, now when you're starting work ethic, a very large part of that is just being humble enough to go and say, hey, I need help, and I'm willing to be an apprentice, or I'm willing to study under you, or I'm willing to pay you for your knowledge, whatever it may be. I'm willing to do it because the information is valuable to me. With that, I want to go ahead and begin to wrap, because we're at about 57 minutes. Oh, wait, we got a question here in the chat. So it looks like it is from Pops. He says, what do you think about the state of our world? Because in today's world, you've got to choose a side. If each person doesn't agree with that discussion, I dislike you.
I have this conversation with my students almost every day. So I started my teaching career in a park, which is 95% Black as a population, African American school, a little bit Latino, and a very small percentage of what I noticed was disagreements had to be arguments, had to be yelling. What I tried to reiterate to them was, hey, just because you disagree with somebody does not necessarily mean it has to be yelling at you, screaming. It's okay to disagree. You may like the Kings and I may like the Lakers, or you may think Shakespeare is awesome and there may be, a different authors. That may be my preference. With that being said, I need to be able to listen to what you're saying, receive it, and then accept you for who you are. And until we do that, it's going to be that constant clashing. Oh, you like Trump and I like Obama, and now we don't like each other. So instead of going, okay, well, that's why you like him. This is why I don't. Okay. But now we can move on and still be cordial and still appreciate one another. I don't think disagreements don't necessarily mean that you can't be friends with somebody.
Right.
One of my best friends is like that. I mean, and, we have those different conversations about when police brutality. Talk about it, and there's certain things that we disagree on, but I still respect him. He still respects me, and I think once we instill that into the kids, that's what starts instilling in our kids. That be a critical thinker. Think for yourself. Why don't you? You don't like this. Why don't you? A lot of times I have students that don't like things because their parents told them that they didn't like it. So they're like, I'm like, well, what don't you like about it? Well, I don't know. I don't like it.
Right.
Research and think about it, and then see if that really resonates with you.
Yeah, I think that goes back to that spoon-fed mentality. Well, because somebody I know and trust doesn't like it, I'm not even going to do the research for myself to find out whether I know and like it. And so you're right. Just because you have a disagreement doesn't mean you can't be friends. Definitely never means you can't be cordial. One of the things for me is if I have a fundamental disagreement with somebody, like, I'm big on fatherhood. And if you're not going to take care of your kids, yeah, we can't be friends. Like, I can love you from a distance and hope well wishes for you, but I can't see myself walking on the street side by side with somebody who's spending money as I spend money and they're not taking care of their children. So that for me, like, I do believe there are some fundamental things. It doesn't mean I dislike the person, though, and I think that's a key word that your father used is dislike. It doesn't mean that I dislike you. It just means that I don't agree enough with a characteristic that you hold that I'm not willing to attach my reputation and who I am to that. That's all it means. It doesn't mean I dislike you. So I think that that's very critical. So I want to close with this last question for you. So with Intersations, with tonight's Intersation being about work ethic, if you were to leave the audience tonight with 1, 2, 3, or 4 different nuggets from tonight's conversation on work ethic, what do you think are the key takeaways from tonight's conversation?
I would say the first nugget, my first key takeaway that I would hope that I'm watching will take away from this would be that work ethic requires a level of dedication from a specific individual, even when you're not feeling the best, even when the world seems like it's throwing you so many curveballs and you got to jump over her. It's having that resolve and making a conscious decision to go after whatever it is that that for me is that burning passion inside of me. So I'm going to be absolutely the best father that I can to my kids and my world. So my work ethic, everything that I do is going to echo that.
Mm-hmm.
And another nugget I would say is balance. It's great to have work ethic. It's great to want to accomplish that goal, but realize that there's so much more to life than maybe just one specific goal. And sometimes you need to step back, be analyzing. How far am I from that goal? How far have I come? Once you see how far you've came, maybe then, hey, I've recharged my battery enough so that I can continue to pursue that.
Sorry, I'm catching up because I take notes. When people speak, I take notes. That way I don't have to worry about trying to remember it later. If I forget, I can just go straight back to the note. So that's good. I like that. Work ethic requires a level of dedication. And then also just chiming in with that balance. So one of the things when you said that, it kind of drives me to think about is, you know, if you have to sacrifice everything to display that you have work ethic, then you have to at some point ask yourself, is that even worth the achievement or the success that's alleged? If you have to sacrifice everything, I'll tell you right now, if I have to sacrifice my children or my relationship with my children in order to achieve some type of perceived success, that's not a sacrifice I'm willing to make, because at the end of the day, once they became part of this planet and manifest physically, my purpose was diverted from the things that necessarily that I wanted, more so to the things that they need and that they deserve. So, so with that, I want to see just really quick if there's anything else in the chat, except you've done your best for today and do better. Oh, I like that. Your mother says, except you have done your best for today and do better tomorrow. Like sometimes it's definitely just clean. Just look, I gave everything I had. I don't have anything else to give today. Tomorrow I'll figure out how to give more. I like that a lot. With that, I want to. So with Intersations, there's a portion at the end of the Intersation that I like to do. It's called Tools for the First Row. So this channel is called First Row. It's a play on my last name. My last name is Rowe, W-R-O-E. However, it's a play because when I was younger and when I was being exposed to business mentors, I was taught that the people who make the most money and the people who learn the most sit on the first row because there's no distraction between them and the speaker. So that's why I use the term first row. That's how this channel's name came about. And so on every Intersation, I like to present tools for the first row because you're sitting on the first row. These tools are for you. They're also for me. But they're tools that I thought about when I was creating the content for this particular Intersation. And so I think about 4 or 5 tools that I want to share with you tonight when it comes to work ethic that stood out to me when I was creating the content. So the very first tool that I came out with or thought about when I was creating this was the key word in work ethic is actually work. But really it's a compound word in my experience where you have to have the work. You have to put the work forward. If you're not willing to put the work forward, don't joke and don't lie to yourself that you're really about some type of work ethic. We hear people say sometimes that, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. But it's like, well, if you're so busy, are the things that you're so busy doing, are they free? Do you not get paid to do them? Because you're also so financially strapped all the time. So at some point, are you doing work or are you doing busy work? Because if you're doing busy work, that's not going to get you maybe to the place that you need to be in order to be financially independent, in order to achieve some of the goals that you want to achieve. So that's the first part is work. The second part of that, though, is ethic. So if you don't have ethics, that's like your core compass of how you know something is right, how you know something is wrong, what's going to drive you, what's going to be that voice in the background kind of chiming in your ear to keep you on track for whatever goal it is that you set to and you want to accomplish. So that's the first tool is really that the key word is work. But then at the second part of that, you do have to have some ethics about yourself and integrity. The second tool that I came up with when dealing with this particular content was that you have to realize that average is not a safe zone. And I have a strong feeling that today's generation has really identified average to be safety. And you see it in like the participation trophies where everybody participated, so everybody wins. Well, that's everybody. The everybody who lost really are in. They're not the winners of this particular competition. So we don't bring home participation trophies in my household. It's great that you participated. It's great that you either learned or gave it your all. However, just a participation trophy in the sense of, well, congratulations, you meet in the average, you got up and you played. I don't feel like that's something personally that should be celebrated. And the reason I say it's not the safe zone is because as you become an adult and you get older, when you find yourself in the average in work, and then a company like GM recently just announced they're going to do a restructuring, which is another word for laying off people. You find you're in the average, and then all of a sudden you don't know whether you're in the middle or if you're in the upper average or the lower average. You're just in the average. And then when a company says, okay, we got to cut the bottom 30%, well, then you find out, oh, shoot, I was in the bottom 30% of the average and not in the top tiers of the average. So it's not a safe zone to sit in average. It's not a safe zone to, not work your muscles out in the gym. And then all of a sudden you need something, or you have a situation that comes up where you acquire strength and you don't have the wherewithal to execute whatever that may be that you need to execute, whether that's defending yourself physically or, removing something out of your house. I know a couple of my friends that are on here right now. We used to play video games, and I was talking to one of them the other day where we used to carry the big tube screen TVs to my house to do LAN parties on Halo. If you don't have the right muscle mass to do that, you're going to drop your TV on the ground, and then you're just going to have a Xbox that doesn't have a TV to go with it because our parents wasn't going to buy us another TV. So that's the second thing, is that realize that average is not the safe zone. The third thing is LAN parties. The third thing is that patience is mandatory. And I use a lot of gym analogies, not because I go there a lot, but because I feel like there's a lot of other lessons to learn at the gym about yourself and especially about work ethic. There was one time where I actually took my oldest son to the gym with me, and he was struggling in school. And I think he was struggling because he said, where you were talking about earlier, Keenan, where he was like, well, I don't really care. I don't really care about me. So why should I apply myself? Why should I work? And so I took him to the gym with me, and we got under the bench press because, boys are always, I can bench press this much. I can bench press that much. Okay. So I put him under the bar, and I put 35 on each side. And I asked him, get under the bar. I'll make sure it doesn't drop on you, but go ahead and bench press this 35, I don't know what the math is on that because I don't really keep track of my weights, but these 235-pound plates. And he just kind of struggled and he couldn't push the weights up. I said, oh, okay, I see what the problem is. And so I take the 35-pound weights off and put 45-pound plates on. And so I'm like, all right, let's go. And he's looking at me like, what are you doing? I wasn't able to do the 35-pound plate. Don't worry, let's go. Next set. And so he gets under that bar, and of course he can't even slow it down. Like, I have to catch it and hold it. And then we lift it up and put it back up. And I said, okay, sit up, son. I said, I want you to understand something. What I'm trying to show you is that you can't be at a 45-pound plate before you're at a 35-pound plate. And so if you want to get to a 45-pound plate, you got to do the work to get there. I'm just going to get here and get under this weight. That doesn't work. And that happens in a lot of areas in life where that natural ability that you had to be smart and intellectual at math, now that was great for arithmetic, but now you're in algebra. Now you're in calculus. Now you're in trigonometry. Now you're in math theory. So when you're in those types of situations, well, you didn't do the work to build yourself up to have the baseline knowledge to be able to lift math theory. So you have to go back to where you can operate, where you can execute, and start working from there in order to get to where you want to be. So patience is definitely mandatory. There has to be a balance of, I do believe there has to be a balance of, if the boat's in the middle of the ocean, you got to swim out to the boat, in the words of Antoine Wade. But the boat can come towards you, but you also can swim out to meet the boat. That's what I meant. I'm sorry. So there has to be this patience, but it's not just sit and wait for things to come to you. The fourth tool that I came up with regarding this particular topic was that growth comes from the push. The areas when we feel most uncomfortable, or we feel maybe socially awkward or out of our element, those are the areas where we start to learn the most about ourselves. We learn what our values are. I've been in plenty of situations where I've had the opportunity to do drugs, and I've just never been into drugs. So it's been something where a drug was offered, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not interested. That's not who I am. And so that push, that growth came from an area where it was like, how the heck did I end up at this party where they're doing drugs at? And they're just offering them to me. Like, no charge, just here you go, here's what you can do. But that growth and really finding out who I was and that drugs wasn't for me was because of the fact that I was like, yeah, no matter who I'm with, no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing, I don't need any type of substance to alter my state of mind. I like to be a clear, concise thinker. So if I'm not going to be able to be clear and concise, and I don't know what the side effects are, and I can't assume that the person who created the product had Billy Rose's best interest in mind, it's a no for me. So that's the other thing, is that the growth comes from the push. And another area that growth comes from is you'll build up stamina and agility. So when you're walking, for instance, so let's say you're taking a walk. We all know that walking next to probably like army crawling is about the slowest thing that you can do. However, if I walk a mile, I'm going to burn a certain set of calories, and I'll be able to probably, after a certain while of walking that mile, be able to walk further and further distances. However, if I do that same mile and I spend time jogging it, not only am I going to be able to burn more calories, which is in this case is a healthy thing, but as I get further and further in jogging, there's actually an exponential increase in how far I can walk. So you have to realize that for that growth can be a simultaneous growth within us. And if we're executing in areas that are a little more difficult, if we challenge ourselves or push ourselves into the more challenging things, the things that would be easier that we may sometimes have to do will be that much more easier as well. And then the last tool that I came up with, and you actually touched base on this a little bit, Keenan, was that understanding the difference between an efficiency and a shortcut. And the way I perceive this in my mind is that, shortcuts and efficiencies, they may both get you to a successful place. However, in my opinion, a shortcut typically ends up costing you in the long run. So going back to that steroid usage that you were talking about in the gym. Yeah, you may shortcut, bulk up, and be the buffest dude in planet Earth. However, your functional mental knowledge of manipulating those muscles and being able to do something like play basketball, or being able to understand what your capabilities are from a flexibility standpoint, you might lose some of that, and that can cost you an injury later on down the road. Whereas an efficiency typically it will not only shorten or decrease the cost of something, it will also exponentially increase the production of something. So when I thought about efficiencies, I started thinking about light bulbs. And the reason I think about this is because they've changed so much since I was a kid. We used to have these, I think they're called incandescent light bulbs. The standard light bulb, it has a little wire in between it. You turn it on. That light bulb is a very cheap light bulb to buy, but it burns a higher amount of energy than the CFL light bulbs that we use today. And so an efficiency is the CFL light bulb. Now, that light bulb does cost more up front for you to get and bring into your house. However, it has 10,000 hours of lifespan versus the 1,000 hours of lifespan that a regular bulb has. It also costs less to produce the energy in that light bulb, so it would save you on a month-to-month basis compared if you had a regular incandescent light bulb with it. So that's why I say it's important to understand the difference between a shortcut versus an efficiency. I recommend that you focus on the efficiencies because they are less likely to leave you high and dry at the end. But don't allow yourself to slip into the idea that, well, because I'm more efficient at getting this done, that means I have more time to waste. Don't allow that procrastination to creep in on you when you're dealing with efficiencies. And I forget what movie it is, but it's one of my favorite quotes where the guy is like, man, this shortcut is hard. yeah, if it was easy, it would just be called the way. So try to steer away from shortcuts and focus on efficiencies. Make yourself more efficient in your processes, whether that's educationally, financially, professionally, relational, whatever it may be. Make yourself more efficient in those interactions so that you're spending time doing the things that you need to do to develop your work ethic and get to the success that you want to be in. So those are the 5 tools that I have for the first row tonight. I really do appreciate you guys rocking with us this evening. Keenan, I want to give you an opportunity to close out and say anything that you want to say as closing comments to the people, and then I'll make one more announcement and we'll close it out for the evening.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Not overwhelmed. I'm always grateful for it that I support in. Looking at the chat, notice people are talking about being uncomfortable with, and think about. I know it's the gym, and we keep using it. Like you said, there's so many lessons to learn from it. Think about when you go to the gym. If you just work out the same muscles every single time, you're really improving overall body. You're improving over picture. You're not have to go and work on the things that you're not good at. My training business, I don't have players come to me who already know how to shoot 3-pointers and just have them work on just 3-pointers. Have them work on things that they are not good at. I want you as a trainer to do something that you need to improve. You do not have a left hand. You should use it. My classroom, I have students that are great readers, but they don't know how to cite textual evidence. That's what we work on. And I just think true work ethic and growth comes from working on the things that.
I agree with that. The things that you can improve, those weaknesses, that is a clear, concise area. Why don't you say that as one of your bullets, man? But other than that, you guys, again, I thank you guys for tuning in live tonight. For those who are watching on the replay, I hope you guys got something as well from this. Feel free to engage with us in the comments, and we'll definitely get back to you. Either Keenan or myself will get back to you on those comments. If you have not already, please take a moment to click the subscribe button on the First Row YouTube channel. And when you click it, there should be a bell next to it. Click the bell so that you're notified when the First Row comes on live. I'm happy to, I just enjoy when people are not necessarily watching for the audience, but engaging and joining in and sharing in the information. That's something that really brings me to this channel for me. And I think it's the way that TV is actually headed, is we need things that are more interactive and less things that are just talking at us and to us. Other than that, tomorrow, the next time, that the First Row will be live is tomorrow. There will be a Wednesday Word that's at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That Wednesday Word will be on managing energies. If you want to know what that is, as always, you'll have to tune in live to find out. But that will be at, again, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I also want to start putting out there that there will be a special Intersation panel on December 27th. That's a Thursday, actually, of the week of Christmas. That will be a special panel with 4 people on the topic of dating. So I think I should just put that bug in your ear, and you'll hear a couple more things about that coming up. But the 27th of December at 7 p.m., that Intersation will be the first panel Intersation on the First Row. So with that, as always, if you like this video, share it. If you share this video, like it. I'm happy to engage with you in the chat. I'm happy to engage with you in the comments. Please take a moment to subscribe. But until then, thank you for sitting on the First Row this evening. We look forward to seeing you next time on the First Row. One love, peace, and God bless.